Welcome back to OpenLine tonight. We're doing things differently in the name of physical distancing or social distancing. Our guests are joining us by Skype, and we are talking about tornado recovery here in Nashville and also our response to the coronavirus. We have Councilman Freddie O'Connell joining us, who oversees Germantown and Buena Vista and a few other areas in his district. And thank you for joining us once again. We appreciate hearing from you tonight. I want to know what is not working in your district right now when it comes to tornado recovery, whether it's just the lack of volunteers. What's lacking?
So I'd say right now, again, coming back to the fact that these are twin challenges, there are a couple things left. In fact, I just heard from, as we were on a walk yesterday, we kind of saw a neighbor on her front porch, and we're just kind of talking at a distance, at the level of front yard distance, right?
Yeah.
And she was saying, so a tree from their neighbor's yard had actually fallen and damaged their roof, and they had difficulty getting a contractor out there to get it appropriately tarped, much less fixed, because we've still got rain in the forecast. And so I think right now a couple things are happening, because I just also heard literally this afternoon from a friend and neighbor in Germantown who also had some damage, and she was having difficulty with the contractor she had actually gotten successfully arranged. She had enough damage that I think it was going to require, some measure of building permit from codes, and it's been very difficult for people to get through to the codes department right now because so much of Metro as a whole is in some form like other businesses of either working from home or offering limited services, right? So I'm trying to get people connected to resources to actually get those urgent repairs done as we have more weather moving through the area. That's one of the things that is really proven challenging. I think another is something I mentioned just a little bit ago. When you have mass displacement of people who were previously in stable housing, and at least one of those apartment complexes that was damaged was actually some of the first affordable housing, like basically rent-controlled, income-based housing, and that building is effectively condemned at this point. So those were all people who had very affordable urban housing, some of whom had been there for years, and now that entire building, they've all had to go somewhere else, and that's been a significant challenge. I think as people are starting to hit the economic side of this, where you've got people in this area, again, some of those being younger folks, millennials who were in those multi-family scenarios, who suddenly can no longer drive for Lyft to supplement their income, or those kinds of things. Now all of a sudden we're thinking about issues like utilities, right? And if you're displaced, that's its own issue, but if all of a sudden you've actually lost either part or all of your income, that puts a lot of pressure on displacement and recovery. You mentioned the volunteer thing. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Hands On Nashville was previously able to flood the zone with volunteers to do tornado relief and recovery. Now that has slowed to a trickle just based on the fact of physical distancing being such a mandatory thing, right? Whereas Lee Chapel a couple weekends ago was a hub of activity for the community. Now people are having to be very careful at these disaster assistance centers that are still open. And in fact, I know TEMA sent out an advisory that they are kind of closing up their operations out of an abundance of precaution related to coronavirus, right? So a lot of the tornado relief issues have been compounded by the fact of physical distancing, frankly.
Do you feel that the people in your area, I know it really runs the gamut, especially in your district, of whether folks would have insurance or would not have insurance, if they have the ability to recover financially just from the tornado, and then possibly a job loss as well?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that's what's going to be really, you're going to find some people that are in that sort of double hardship scenario of either my home is gone altogether, which has happened to people, or it's significantly damaged and I'm having to go through the FEMA, the Red Cross, all that kind of process. If I'm a small business owner, right now, the best I've seen for small business owners whose revenues have suddenly plummeted to zero or near zero are small business administration loans, right? And as somebody who's owned a small business before, when cash flow becomes an issue, you don't look to take on new debt as so, right? So, unless these become zero interest lines of credit or something like that, this is going to be a really challenging environment for anybody who owns a small business. And I know in District 19, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, right? A lot of our restaurateurs and small business owners live really close to where they work. In many cases, we've got community-based restaurants. Now, some of those are still open and doing curbside pickup, takeout, that kind of thing. And some of them have come up with creative new options, right? Like Henrietta Red in Germantown has actually started to offer something specifically to keep their kitchen staff engaged. They're basically doing sort of like a Blue Apron thing where you can actually order family meals as an option, not just kind of getting a dinner, instead getting like a collection of meals. And some businesses are, in a good enough position to be able to do that. But, I know the tornado has just obliterated a couple of businesses, right? This isn't just homeowners as it tore through Germantown. Germantown is one of our lovely mixed-use neighborhoods, right? And so it took apart houses, it took apart churches, it took apart truly the physical areas where business was being done.
I really only have about a minute and a half, and this is a pretty tough question, but is our city and the administration capable of handling both recovering from the tornado and dealing with coronavirus at the same time?
Yeah, I think we are, and I think the reason for it was on display in the tornado, and that is, you could see a couple different variations, but they're really the same idea, right? There's kind of the notion of I believe in Nashville, but also Nashville strong, right? And I think that is what's ultimately going to carry us here, right? If we truly care about our neighbors and about one another as Nashvillians and Tennesseans, right, we're going to be very serious about this, right? We're going to try to do everything within our power to perform acts of decency, acts of generosity, which we saw time and time again to the tune of thousands of people during the tornado relief efforts. We're going to need that now for a sustained period, like nothing any of us alive have probably ever known before in our lifetimes. And it's going to, even 2 weeks of something like this is going to start to feel really uncomfortable for a lot of people, particularly those who have lost a job, right? So I want to put out a resource real quickly if I can, which is NashvilleResponseFund.com. That is something that was announced as a partnership between the mayor's office and United Way of Nashville. NashvilleResponseFund.com. It's got a whole page of resources for individuals, and in fact, United Way also has another resource right now called 211. Anybody who is starting to feel pressure about access to food or needs any other type of emergency assistance, I would encourage them to dial 211. It's up 24/7 by the United Way. They can connect you to the best community-based resources available, and we're going to need more and more of those. And
Councilman, I'm out of time, but you've given tremendous information, and we super appreciate it tonight. Thank you.
Great.